Contact Protocol, Episode 5. Mvel chittered in pain as Wilac sprayed the sealant foam over the end of his missing limb, the chemicals searing his nerves as they created a hard coating to prevent the continued blood loss. As Wilac moved to tend to the ruined eye, he steeled himself and continued his retelling of what happened. I was monitoring the environmental systems, rebalancing the flows into the internal power matrix as we could not shed the heat into hyperspace. Then suddenly I was hit from behind. I think that is what destroyed my eye. He winced as a mist of analgesic spray and antimicrobials was liberally applied over the pit in his face where his eye once was. I slammed into the console and turned. I think I raised my mid-claw to defend myself, but it was cut through like a druff beetle cuts through a ribby leaf. After that, it gets confusing. More cuts to my shell and another blow to my eye from a large metal bar. And then I passed out. I'm a technician, not a warrior. Wilac continues working, wrapping sterile dressings around the head of Mvel. And this was before the crashes? What crashes? Replied Mvel, his shell patterns flashing in agitation. I'm not sure. The first was while I was in the garden tunnels. When I came to the garden, it was burning. I came here to try to put out the flames. But then there was a second crash, much less violent than the first, which has resulted in our current strange gravity. The tree. Is it safe? Cried Mvel. I don't know. I had hoped to be able to do something from here, but... He gestured at the ruined equipment as he finished fixing the bandages in place. It seems like someone had different ideas. And from what you say, it was done before we crashed, which might suggest that our launch was not as secure as we thought. Mvel groaned as he rolled to his feet, almost bouncing up into the air in the low gravity. Well, I can see what I can do. Most of the systems have backups, but we need to work quickly. We also need to let the others know that we have a saboteur on board, if they haven't already been attacked. Who knows what they could have done to the ship after they hit here. Wilac bobbed in agreement. Do you know who it was who attacked you? Mvel deflated slightly. Well, no, not exactly. I know it wasn't one of our siblings. It must have been a cousin from one of the other family trees, but I don't know which one. I never really got into the mix with them, as I was usually deep in the bowels of our environmental systems. Wilac clicked his mandibles in frustration. Okay, can you handle putting out the fires while I go to the bridge? Mvel nodded. Yes. Most of the systems I can access from here, even though the primary interface equipment has been destroyed. I still have my diagnostic interface, which I can manage most of it. He looked thoughtfully. I might even be able to lock down some of the ship, as I have access to the emergency shutter doors. He paused and rummaged in a pouch before handing a small keycard to Wilac. This should allow you local override of the shutters to get you through. Wilac looked at the card and slid it into his own pouch. Thank you, Mvel, and good luck. I will try to contact you once I reach the bridge, but I worry it may have fallen to the same fate as here. Wilac's wings unfurled as he buzzed up and through the door, while Mvel looked around the ruins of his station for a suitable access port to begin his work, and save what was by now the only life tree he knew to be free. Based on what was happening, however, it seemed like the swarm hadn't wanted even one twig to be free of their influence. It was up to him, Wilek, and any of the remaining loyal crew to fight them for that freedom. He wiped away a thin bead of ichor seeping out from under his bandages and set to work. Wilek flew on, confident that Mavel would try their best to save the life tree. A few minutes later, the light strobed and a deep clacking sound as the fire suppression systems came to life. His mandibles rippled in happiness. "Well done, Mavel," he muttered to himself as he fluttered past the closing environmental shutters that moved to shut off the corridor. While not a warrior himself, Wilek was a tender of the tree and the young, meaning that he was the last line of defense for the tree and his siblings. His form and memory imprinting was part way between normal worker and warrior. From what he could vaguely remember of the crew, most of the cousins on board here were workers, with only a handful of warriors. His sibling warriors outnumbered them. Not that this would massively help him if he came across all of them at once. And they were all part of this conspiracy. There were a splattering of cousins from different family trees after all. Surely not all of them could have fallen to the swarm, when they had all worked so closely with his own life tree. Approaching a junction, he stilled his thoughts and his wings, choosing to drift slowly in microgravity. With deft touches against the wall, he slowed himself and peered around the junction. Nothing. His wings became a blur again as he sped towards the next junction, where he slowed again and carefully looked around. Suddenly, Wilek was pulled back in the direction he had come from, as something had grabbed his lower limb and yanked. Instinctively, Wilek struck down with his middle claw, as his wings withdrew into their protective cases. His claws jittered off the thickened carapace of a warrior's heavy mid-limb, leaving heavy scratches. "Wilek, wait!" hissed the soldier, as Wilek reared back to strike again. Wilek paused, making out the pattern of a warrior sister. "It's me, Karim." Seeing Wilek wasn't going to strike her again, she let go of his leg. "You need to be quiet. There are at least 2 cousin warriors in this part of the ship. I think they've all gone mad and attacked us." Wilek steadied himself against the wall and spoke quietly. "I think that it is worse, sister. I think that they may have fallen to the swarm." Karim's nauseating membranes flashed across her eyes in shock. "Swarm? Here? How?" Wilek flicked her grasper in dismissal. "That is to find out later. The environmental control room has been damaged, and the technician there injured, but he is now attempting to manage the fires in the Arbitorium." "Fire?" Karim explained, her pattern dulling in dismay. "Do not worry. We should be able to save the life tree and our future siblings. For now, we need to get to the bridge and try to regain control of the ship and rally our forces," Wilek continually whispered. Karim set her mandibles in determination. "Okay, I will lead the way. Follow close and make sure to check behind you from now on." Wilek bobbed in agreement, but Karim was already moving past him, her bulky body moving smoothly through the air as she silently pulled herself along the floor, threaded with her graspers. With renewed hope, he continued to follow. Sitting alone in the cockpit, Julian instinctively grabbed the controls as the proximity alarms began to scream out. He looked at the display with incomprehension for a split second, before selecting a course and doing a hard burn on the thrusters, having to rely on his experience to pick a vector which would save the shuttle without sending plumes of exhaust into the hull of the alien ship. The momentary lag in the inertial compensator caused loud complaints over the open communication channel, as several people were thrown to the floor and a number of components and bits of unsecured cargo went flying. Julian suddenly realized he was still holding his breath. With a long exhalation, he checked the plot again. "What the hell?" he exclaimed, studying the vast expanse of material that had suddenly unfurled from the alien ship. He didn't even need the sensors to see it. A huge black shadow had appeared, blotting out the red giant, with solar sails that must have been tens of kilometers long. Dr. White and Ahmed appeared at the entrance of the cockpit. "What the hell was that all about?" started Ahmed, before his brain caught up with what he could see through the armored window, and his eyes opened wide. "What the hell is that?"